the ostrich approach is a bad, deadly approach. It's almost reckless for me as an executive of a company to do that. So I'll tell you, a bad plan is better than no plan. And so we made a plan, and our plan is, let's take the soundest form of reserve currency we can right now and put our Everbowl capital, our treasury strategy into it. That I learned from Saylor. What he did kind of gave me permission to do it. If a public company can do it, then it makes a lot of sense.
Welcome back to Bitcoin is Hard. This is a Choice App production about Bitcoin and personal finance. I'm your host, Brian Harrington. Today, very excited about this. We have the CEO of Everbowl, Jeff Fenster, who just announced that Everbowl is moving onto the Bitcoin standard, adopting Bitcoin. And I love that. So, Jeff, welcome, dude. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to come on your show. It's always fun and big fan of it. So excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm very jealous about the 40 under 40 thing. I just turned 30 and no editor called me or anything I felt like I was pushing pretty hard, but I guess not hard enough. What is the secret to winning these things and getting on these lists?
Results. At the end of the day, results tend to provide the reward that comes with it, and you get on these lists, you get this recognition, and it's kind of momentum. And it's one of the things I usually speak about when I'm helping entrepreneurs is the 1% better every day, win stacking and building. So as you keep getting 1% better every day, you start to hit these milestones and you hit these achievements. And then as a result, these rewards are, the media starts to take notice, and you get the opportunity to be amongst, excellence and these peers. And it's a culmination of a lot of different things, of daily habits and being on an incredible team and having a great team of people that support the same vision that you're on. Because it's definitely not even though it's a solo award, it's far from it.
Mm-hmm. What I love about this is because I've been tracking Bitcoin really closely for a long time, and I've also been do my fair share of kind of motivational podcasts and just books and daily habits and just trying to be a high performer, I guess. And I immediately see the synergy between both these things. Bitcoin compounds and just is better. And so I'm excited to just we'll get into it and just hear from you on kind of that crew of people, I guess. How is it going with kind of understanding Bitcoin and being able to separate it from crypto and just kind of arriving at conclusions? Because I think one thing is people are very busy, and high performers are very busy, and Bitcoin takes a little bit to kind of wrap your brain around. And so we're going to get there, but tell us, so Everbowl is not your first company. So no. Tell us a little bit about the other companies and just how Everbowl got started.
Sure. I'll just give you the quick 2-minute back of the baseball card. Went to law school to be a sports agent, graduated at 24, but I had a daughter my third year of law school and decided I didn't want to travel the world representing athletes. I wanted to be a parent. So graduated with a law degree and no idea what I was going to do in life. And I got a job selling payroll at ADP, the payroll company, and was there for 6 months. And using a strategy that I use in all my companies, I was able to kind of find a way to succeed quickly and was the number one sales rep in the country my first 6 months, made President's Club, and everything was great. This was 2007. So you'll like the parallel to the timing in a minute. And I achieved this $17,000 annual bonus, and I got it in January of 2008. And I went to my boss and I said, listen, I'd like to get my bonus. And they said, you have to wait to the end of the fiscal year, which didn't end until June. So I'd get it in July. And I had just gotten engaged. I had a daughter. We just bought a new house. I had, just over 6 figures in law school loans to pay back. And I needed the money. I was 24 years old. And they basically said, no, you have to wait. And so I went home that night and I just felt like kind of a prisoner. If you envision seeing your future life, and there I was 30 years from now, is it time for my bonus yet? Kind of a mindset instead of an opportunity to let my results dictate my rewards. And I asked my fiance if she was okay if I quit and move in with my parents and sell the house and start my own. And I had no idea about starting a company. And she said, yeah, she was willing to do that. So I went in the next day, threatened to quit if they didn't give it to me. And they didn't, and I quit and started my first company out of my mom's kitchen with one of my best friends. It's called iChecks, and it was a payroll and HR company, and grew it. Of course, my timing was awesome because it was about February, March of 2008, and we all know about the 2008 financial crisis, so it was a perfect time for someone with not a lot of means or resources to start a company at the beginning of the Great Recession. But timing aside, it worked out really well. We grew it, scaled it, and we ended up exiting it in 2011. And I had a recruiting agency that I started alongside that to vertically integrate for my clients, got rid of that in 2012. Then my youngest daughter was born in 2011. And so I wanted to work from a computer. I figured computers weren't going anywhere and the future was kind of showing us where the world was going. So I wanted to start a digital marketing agency and have the flexibility to work from home and kind of do a little bit more remote because I was traveling so much with my first two companies. And so I started a digital marketing agency and I ended up partnering with a guy named Neil Patel. A lot of people know who he is. And, we hit it off and we worked together for about just over 4 years, representing some of the biggest websites on the internet. And then in 2015, sold off those clients and was driving my wife and kids crazy. And my wife said, go do something you're truly passionate about. And health and wellness is one of my biggest passions outside of entrepreneurship. So I started Everbowl with the idea that I could make healthy food and make access to healthy food more affordable, filling, delicious, and accessible for, people all over the country and make it to where we don't have excuses. Because part of the success formula that I try to use in my own life and business is keeping it very simple and getting 1% better every day. And so everyone wants to eat healthy, but the struggle to do that is a whole host of excuses we make. And it could be we don't think healthy eating is affordable. It's too expensive. So I'm going to go eat something that's cheaper, or it doesn't taste good, or it doesn't fill me up and leave me satisfied, or I just can't get it. It's not accessible. I have 30 minutes at a lunch break and I need access to this food. So those are the four excuses or problems I try to solve on a daily basis with Everbowl, and I use the totality of my business experience to try to bring to the restaurant space. And so alongside that, we started our own construction and fabrication company called We Build. So we actually build every single Everbowl for all of our stores. We have 53 stores open in 14 states and another 190 sold that will be opening in the next 4 years. And so our construction company called We Build Stuff, builds it. So we vertically integrated that. And then I have a company called Unevolved Products, which is we import, the superfoods from around the world. We also manufacture our own flavors, and we have clothing and merchandise, and we vertically integrated that as well. So we are trying our best to control as much of our own supply chain and ensure it's the quality standards we want. And, in business and in life, and this is a long-winded way of telling you my backstory, but I want to kind of tip off to your question, which is why do a lot of high achievers have the aha moment with Bitcoin? And I think I'm getting there in the sense of, by doing these things and controlling more, you're building a moat around your business. And the number one rule of a business owner is to stay in business today. And that's what a lot of people forget. The number two rule is to stay in business tomorrow. And you keep doing that until you get to the point where you're not worried about staying in business and you can worry about other problems, right? So it depends where you are on your life cycle. But the way you stay in business is options and always having options. And too many times companies get stuck without options. So I think people who have found success in personal or professional lives, whether it's as an owner of a business or an employee of a business or just a student and developing their career, it's people who are constantly learning because they're always worried about that iceberg. They're always worried about what could come and disrupt what I have here and break this. And so high achievers are constantly learning. And when you're constantly learning, you're going to stumble onto Bitcoin. And as long as you are a constant learner and you continue to learn on Bitcoin, you're going to make the same natural connection, I think, that we're seeing in the totality of humans that are spending the time to learn about it, which is this just makes too much sense.
Right.
I didn't have a dog in the fight when I started. I didn't want it to work. I didn't want it not to work. I didn't care. I was agnostic. I was like, well, this is something I'm going to learn about it. It was like the internet, the companies in 97 that said, you know what, the internet's a fad. I'm not doing it. I sell my merchandise, my widgets face to face. That's fine until it's not, right?
Yeah.
And the companies that were like, oh my God, we should learn about this. This is not something I can sit on the sidelines for, thrived. And so I just feel like that's what you're starting to see by nation states, institutions, retail investors, all the way down to kids.
Right. Dude, okay, this may sound crazy, but I've been waiting for you. Like, we've been running Bitcoin meetups. We've been running Bitcoin meetups in Southern California for about 3 years now. We started in 2019. Other people did it before that, but just the kind of the Southern California crew as it is right now across LA County, Orange County, San Diego County, Riverside County, we've been just kind of all getting to know each other since 2019. And so there's one taco stand, Tacos La Estrella in Rialto, walked into our meetup and said, hey, my good friend E-Man walked in and was like, hey, my uncle wants to take Bitcoin out of his shop. And so we taught ourselves BTC Pay Server, got a phone, and ran BTC Pay Server at Tacos Estrella in Rialto. Okay,
Wow,
one off.
that's cool.
And then Nextburger, Demetrios from Nextburger walks into the meetup and says, hey, we want to start taking Bitcoin. 3 Nextburger locations in Orange, Newport, and Downey did the same thing. And we stepped it up a little bit this time. This time we were able to run it on the same tablet that their original point of sale was running on. So the person running the register would be able to switch apps and like do it. And so we got those 3 locations. And that's after doing those 4 locations, I realized that someone can do this. Like these tools are now here that someone with you can ask other people. Like I said this out loud and tweeted this. Like someone with 50 locations can turn this on now. Like we are now ready for the next pilot of this thing, and like franchise locations are going to turn this on and start doing this. And we need like the equivalent of what MicroStrategy did on like the treasury front will continue to happen, but there's a very chance like we can start see something happen on the payment front now, especially with like what like McDonald's, Taco Bell, Starbucks are all running this in El Salvador. Like Fortune 500 companies are running Lightning Network. That means that their IT departments have figured it out. It means that their marketing departments created posters that said we accept Bitcoin now. Like so this is a thing and is happening. So I've been waiting for this, and I'm excited about just the way that you've been able to like systematically knock out and execute on so much of this stuff in your life, and now you're just approaching Bitcoin with like the same mindset. So tell us a little bit about that. Who orange pilled you, or how did you like come to like understand Bitcoin and the problem that it's solving, and how did you learn about it?
Well, it actually started. I don't say I was a victim, but I was kind of a victim to uh, not paying much attention. In 2013, I was introduced to Bitcoin, and me and my dad each were like, let's just throw $5,000 at this thing. Who knows what this is? But we're gonna do it. And through a buddy, there was this algorithmic trading bot thing that could get me in and out all the time, so I wouldn't lose much. I wouldn't, and at one point it had doubled, and we thought we were heroes. And we're like, I can't believe we're making money with this obscure Bitcoin thing in 2013. Not paying much attention to it, but just kind of doing it for a little bit of fun and just to see what happened. And we ended up losing all of our money because that trading algorithmic bot thing was a scam of some sort. And so I was down on it, whatever, and I forgot about it. I mean, really, I went back to life, business. And then in 2017, I got reintroduced through Coinbase. Actually, one of the people that was working with me was like, "Hey, do you own any crypto?" And I was like, I used to. And I gave him my little sad sob story. And he's like, dude, it's come so much further. You've got to restart looking at this. So in 2017, I started to look again for the first time, but um, not with the Bitcoin eyes, just with the what is this space eyes. And I bought some Bitcoin, I bought some Ethereum, and then I got sucked into all of the coolest altcoins that were changing the world back then in 2017. And I spent a bunch of money on, IOTA and Tron and all these things that I didn't really even care to understand the technology. I was kind of looking at it like, hey, this is like the dot-com boom with all these cryptos. We're seeing they're accessible, and they were a little bit harder. They weren't on Coinbase, but you had to, I was with people who were smart enough to kind of take me through some of that process in 18 and watch them all, had visions of them going 100x, and then they all died and crashed. And I lost a lot of money on the little ones and sold some of my other ones and that was before I cared about what it did or to what problems it was solving. This was simply and solely just Jeff throwing some play money around investing, not taking it seriously. And then I held on to a little bit of my Bitcoin and Ethereum from 2017. And then in 2019, I started to kind of start hearing a lot more about things that were starting to happen. You hadn't really heard it too much on institutions, but some of my friends that were crypto trading, if that's what they called themselves, were speaking a lot more about it. You could hear the increase in the chatter and the tea leaves that this was just gaining a little bit of a groundswell. And then COVID obviously occurred. And when COVID occurred, March of 2020, there was a moment where I looked at my personal finances across all my investment and my investment thesis as just a human being. And I came to the conclusion quickly that I needed to own more assets. And I started to look at what were those assets. And obviously the stock market got crushed and my positions got crushed, but it was a great time to buy. So, I backed my personal truck up a little bit in April and May of 2020 and realized it was a good time to start picking up some securities and started to pay attention more to Bitcoin, and I didn't buy any more until June of 2020 was when I started buying again personally, and just started following more of the media. I started following, Bitcoin on I didn't use Twitter very much, but I started to read the Bitcoin news as far as what was coming on in Google. And Anthony Pompliano, he's a friend, and I saw him on CNBC once a week, and I started to listen more to him. And then Michael Saylor started to start coming on, and Raoul Paul from his macro theory and thesis. And all of a sudden, these guys that I started having access to, I started listening to, and they started to say the right words, which was, I had that moment where I stopped thinking about it as, forget investment personally. Like, I started to realize, like, wait, I need to learn this. I need to use the same stuff I did when I wanted to learn about the stocks that I potentially invest in, or real estate, or a business you're starting, or anything that interests you. Is like, let me take this somewhat seriously. And so, and I don't know if it's Raoul Paul's accent, but I listened to like a 2-hour speech he had, and he was just talking about where the world's going from a high level macro. And I just had a light bulb switch. I'm like, I need to dive in. And so I did. And so I've been a huge consumer of all things. And I say both Bitcoin and crypto since then, because I don't, again, I love, and I think Bitcoin is the answer. I think it's the logical next evolution for the reserve currency of the world, the internet, of the money of the internet, if you will. It just makes too much sense. But I'm also not going to be so staunch that I'm not going to leave open the opportunity to be wrong, and I'm going to learn about the other ones. And I don't think they're as good of a long-term investment opportunity both to make money, but also for stability and for decentralization, and for all the reasons that I'm sure we're going to get into. I think it's better than the rest, but I'm always going to be open to listening to the rest. And Raul switched his position, and now he's really an Ethereum maxim, and he thinks it's the greatest trade, and he could be right. But I still agree with Michael Saylor, which is to understand this is the rails of the internet. This is the internet with the internet, right? So if the internet grew as fast as it did so because we didn't have the internet to use to grow it, right? So the internet's the digitization of information, and what that enabled us to learn and move information so quickly. And now we have the digitization of money or energy, or you pick your analogy, and we get the rails of the internet to accomplish it. When you start seeing, African tribes in remote areas that have smartphones and now have access to this, that's insanity. So, and then you see like Elon Musk and Starlink, and pretty soon with 5G and where we're going, you won't be anywhere where you're not connected or have access to be connected. So to transact independently and to be able to live our lives instead of just thinking ourselves as, oh, I'm an American who lives in California, who lives in Southern California, and so I can only do what I can do here. No, the world's small, it's a global world, and so we need to be able to connect each other. And so that's kind of what got me there.
Dude, that's amazing. I think that's super, super fair. And I think that's well articulated. And again, what's amazing about that is just understanding that there's two buckets and explaining that the way that you just did is so far ahead of what I guess would, like, some people haven't gotten there yet. Like, some people haven't gotten there yet and are still kind of back where you were, of just kind of like spraying and praying with the like fun money, which is fine, and it's completely fine. But it's amazing to hear like you articulate it just up to that speed like that. Something that was amazing about your quote in the Yahoo Finance article and that you tweeted out afterwards, Jeff, when you said like your reason for doing this was like excessive debasement of the US dollar, that was a very like, that's not exactly a very like PC thing to say or like put in your like article, but it was very direct. What motivates you to like be so direct, or like what's backing that?
Well, I mean, it's a fact. It's again, it's black and white. It's not something I want to be true. It's not what I'm rooting for, regardless of the fact that I own Bitcoin, and I would probably benefit financially if Bitcoin gets more adoption. So it's self-serving for me to promote it. But irrespective of that, I still would prefer to see the sanctity of the current US dollar. If we could snap our fingers and undo all the mess that has occurred, and all of the maybe wrong, or either they were incorrect or they were done out of necessity, by our institutions that have built the world we currently live in, sure, the easiest answer is let's make money under the current system. Nothing has to change and we can all thrive, but it's broken. And
Mm-hmm.
March of 2020, the easiest answer was I looked at the value of real estate. And
Mm-hmm.
March of 2020, real estate, your house was worth blank, whatever it was. Let's just say it was $1 million. We'll use an easy example. Well, now it's worth $2 million. So I think I'm rich, right?
Right.
Except what kind of house can I buy with $2 million? The same house I could have bought last year for $1 million. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not richer. I'm in the same position, except whatever I have in money that wasn't purchased yet, I can't, unless that doubled too in my savings account, which it didn't, I can't buy the same house. So a year ago me can't afford with my cash to buy the now me's same house.
Yeah.
I'm no longer in that economic bucket, right?
Yep.
And so payroll doesn't accumulate and appreciate like these other areas. So the
Right.
S&P appreciated 35%, real estate appreciated 35%, crypto as a whole appreciated 35%, right? Bitcoin appreciated 35%. I made the number, maybe it's not 35
Mm-hmm.
across the board, but the point is your bank account didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you were able to buy a year ago, you can't buy the same amount. Amazon stock is worth more. So if I could buy one share a year ago, I could buy half a share today. I'm poorer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
richer. And
Mm-hmm.
although I might appear to have more of this fiat currency available to me if I do own some of these assets, you're still in the same boat. You can just
Yep.
buy equal amounts of everything else. So
Yep.
so how do you get out of that? I mean, I work, if I'm not working, I'm with my family. And if I'm working, I need to generate a return on that time investment. And
Right.
what I'm making isn't justifying it on a day-to-day basis. So I need to take my money and put it to work.
Yeah.
And where you do that and how you do that, I think is so critical. And so as a company, I'm sitting here at Everbowl and I have a job to do. I have a fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders to increase enterprise value every day, move this company forward, and make sure I'm thinking about the longevity. Again, can I stay in business today? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're not a public company, and so I don't have public company wallets, and I'm not the size of a MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor had a problem of $500 million, and what was he going to do with it? Sounds like a great problem. I don't have that problem. I have a smaller problem, but a bigger one to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
Mm-hmm.
smaller pool of capital at my disposal, and my runway is not going to be as long, and I don't have the public markets to raise capital on the blink of an eye. So, raising money as a company, I've raised a lot of money for many companies over the years, and Everbowl is also an investor-backed business, and we do have shareholders. And raising money when times are good is great, but imagine trying to raise money in March of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
right? When the world shut down and I had to temporarily lay off 400 people and close all my stores. And there was a moment in March 2020 where I looked around, I'm like, we're out of business. If things don't change the next day, we're potentially out of business. That's a real problem. And so you have to look at what are you doing as a company. And so again, constantly learning and seeing what's out there. You should most likely understand that the debasement that's happening isn't stopping. So the problem is not we don't have a solution yet. And I mean this strongly. You can't be an ostrich when you run companies, especially companies that are sub, $500 million a year in revenue. I mean,
Yeah.
Everbowl is, we're growing and we're doing our thing, but we're not quite to the size of 1,000 units yet, and we're not where we want to be. So the ostrich approach is a bad, deadly approach. It's almost reckless for me as an executive of a company to do that. So I'll tell you, a bad plan is better than no plan. And so we made a plan, and our plan is let's take the soundest form of reserve currency we can right now and put our Everbowl capital, our treasury strategy into it. That was I learned from Saylor. What he did kind of gave me permission to do it. If a public company can do it, then it makes a lot of sense. And he made a huge gamble. And after listening to probably 50 hours of him speaking about it and all of his wonderful analogies and being a student of his and then doing my own research above and beyond that to see what other institutions are doing that, how have they done it. Tahini's in Canada was another great resource for me. Props to them and what they did. They laid the groundwork and gave me permission as well. I'm a dual citizen anyway. I have family in Canada, so natural. I don't like what's going on right now today, but natural love for what they did up there. And again,
That's
so
sweet.
being a student and learning, I don't care who comes up with the right answer. As I said at the beginning, the key is let's just find the right answer. And so for us, it just made sense. And so my quote may not have been PC, but I needed to explain the why. And I needed to do it in a concise way. And again, 2 + 2 is 4. So go prove me wrong, because if I'm wrong, I'll pivot. right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll come
Mm-hmm.
back if you can show me that we're no longer debasing the U.S. dollar, we're no longer doing these policy, we're not no longer making these policy
Mm-hmm.
decisions at the top, regardless if it's out of necessity. The why is less important to me than the what. What are
Yep.
they doing? And as long as they're doing this, I have to respond like a game of
Yep.
chess, because otherwise we're going to lose the game.
Yep. No, amazing. I think that makes complete sense. Can we? I've been really excited to find a guest to do this with. Can we sit in the like semi weeds of the business accounting for a second? And I mean semi, like we don't have to go complete nerd out, but I've been just wanting to ask some questions about this. Like,
Sure.
Jeff, for those of us that don't own businesses and we hear this like treasury strategy thing, what, like, when you own a business, do you just have a checking account and a savings account? Like, is it that simple? Or like, not even getting to the Bitcoin part yet, how does it work to just like do banking of a business?
Well, it depends on the type of business, but if you have investors or shareholders, public or private, you have an obligation that I'm the steward of their interest, right? So we'll just use a fake pie and say I own 50% and 50% is owned by shareholders. It doesn't matter if it's one or 100, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
imagine that. So individually, we all own the company. Then I might be the CEO, which I am. And so in this example, so the company of shareholders decided I should run the company.
Mm-hmm.
They're the owners, I run the company. Doesn't always have to be the same, right? I could step down and we could hire a CEO, but in this example, I'm both. So as a result, I have to wear two hats. And the CEO's job is I work and represent the shareholders and make sure the company is on plan to whatever our vision, our goals are, et cetera. And we have this capital, right? We have whatever amount of money is in the bank, and either we're making money or we're burning money on an annual basis. And shareholders invested the initial startup or part of the money for the business, or invested at certain points. And so this money that sits there, it isn't a checking account and a savings account, right? So you have your operating account, which is what you use to pay your bills and run your business. You have your savings or your whatever version of another account you use, which should either hold the carryover that should be accumulating, your I don't want to swear on your podcast,
Yep.
but your O blank fund and all of these
Mm-hmm.
other things. And then if there's gains at the end of the year, the shareholders, it's technically their money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all get K1s and we have to either pay tax on the gain or take the loss if we lose money, but I'm representing their interest, their money. Now we need to retain capital for the future and make sure we have enough to operate the company. And so a treasury strategy for us at our size is really just deciding what is the best use of our company money as the shareholder group and the company to ensure that we have enough to run the business, we have enough for the uh-oh days, and then
Yep.
if there is enough left over, give it back to the shareholders, or does it make more sense for us to reinvest it through an acquisition, another line, another division, another product, because we can make more money for our shareholders than if we just give them their cash.
Yep.
And the usual basis to evaluate that is what can people do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
So then,
oh, go ahead.
no, yeah. So then, okay. So then the classic next question then. So if you would then choose to have the like reserve fund, then move into Bitcoin, does a company face the same like rules that an individual does? Because so individual like Bitcoiners are we've been doing this, like 100% of our savings is in Bitcoin, because anything being saved for the long term or undetermined future like makes sense in Bitcoin. It no longer makes sense in like dollars. And I want to have the conversation with you about whether the operating makes sense in like dollars or Bitcoin also, because I think the operating bucket is very exciting also. But let's stick on savings. Does a business have the same issue that if they swap their savings in Bitcoin and then like reason for needing it comes around and they need to swap part of it back into the operating, like is there the capital gains and the same kind of things for businesses?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So we
Cool.
have, think of it just like a business is just like a person by way of
Yeah.
the tax code.
Right.
So
And so, but
capital
if
gains
you
are capital
all,
gains.
yeah, okay. And so, but it's just known that like, okay, if it needs to do that, whatever the benefit of owning Bitcoin as your savings asset still overcomes any gains that you would pay. Like the company is still coming out ahead. That's the
Well,
like math that yeah.
in a way, it's no different than putting your reserve capital in the stock market if you're a company
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
in a building.
Do
And
companies do that?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, again, it doesn't make sense. So we'll just use an example. Say it costs the company $1 million a year to run the business, and we do our budget for the year, and we're like, okay, we're going to need $1 million in cash. Well, if we have $2 million in cash, what do we do with the other million? If we leave it in our checking account or savings account and make zero interest, next year we have $1 million less whatever debasement there was to the dollar, right? So that's the problem. Where we put that is up to us. One answer is give it back to shareholders. Well, if we never need money again because the business is printing 2 million a year and we're going to be in the same boat next year, we could, right? That's not a wrong solution. And we have done distributions as companies, and that's what those are. And public companies do the same thing. If there's excess cash above and beyond what they think they can reasonably make a good, healthier return on, then I owe it to the shareholders, being one of them, to return it. Even if I wasn't, I owe it to them. So that is an option. But when you look at the reserve cash in Bitcoin, because we've already dealt with a black swan event of COVID, and we live in very uncertain times, and there's a lot of just macro scares on the horizon from, even if there is a fiat to Bitcoin world fight, and the leaders do have what could, I mean, no one can predict how this tinderbox is going to finish.
Right.
It could be smooth, and it could be orderly, or it could be ugly.
Right.
But with all of the uncertainty,
people like you make me believe that it's going to be orderly. Like, we honestly do. Like, it gives me a lot of hope and optimism. Like, this is a very exciting conversation. I'm like, truly have been like waiting for this. Like, it's fun to talk about because, okay, so Everbowl, you franchises, right? So 50 plus stores in there. Okay. How then do their bank accounts work? Like, so then each of those operators open up their infrastructure and then they pay a fee to the overarching Everbowl, right?
Yeah, so franchises come with a royalty. So most franchises that you see, and there's a lot of them, we provide them the operational support, the recipes. It's a collective together agreement, but each store pays a royalty, a small percentage of sales to the overarching bigger picture, the corporate Everbowl. So we grow as a big company. So if you own one store in Menifee, and I own a store in San Diego, and someone owns a store in Las Vegas, and someone else owns a store in Dallas, and et cetera, then as collectively, we're all sharing the same thing. The commercial helps us all. The promotion and the publicity helps everybody. And so our plan in the adoption and moving at the corporate level and then passing that down is we're creating the on ramps for all of our franchisees to participate in the same manner. They're not going to be forced to do everything the same, but the beauty is, and we're working, we've already been working with some great companies and exploring them all, all of them, from Swan to Strike to NIDIG to OpenNode, and many more that I'm not naming. They're all great in that they're providing different on-ramps and making this more institutionally available. And so the challenge we have, and I also mentioned it, I think, in the press release, was we're not 100% adopted because we can't, right? We have to be thoughtful. And as much as I would love for the world to be there, it's just not there yet. And so we have to move it systematically, which is by taking the key steps. The first step was to show our confidence to the world that this is what we believe in by moving by adopting Bitcoin for our treasury strategy. We're going to be announcing probably this week in another press release about payroll being offered to all of our staff. And I'm going to take my pay in Bitcoin, and further showing that that's where I believe your currency should go. We're working on making transactions available in the stores for people to come in and buy Bitcoin. And we're working with our POS provider right now to integrate the Lightning Network so that can be accomplished, and doing it through our technology and our app. So you can buy both our products and services, our products as well as franchises utilizing Bitcoin.
Yep.
And then we're also working towards doing some other fun things that are going to allow us to Bitcoinize different components of the business, like our loyalty programs and gift cards, and have the store value being thought of separately. And by doing these things, we're going to make it easier for franchisees to understand how easy it is for them, because not all of them have the same education level or comfort. And so the key for adoption, in my opinion, is not to ever force it on anyone, right? It's to show them the same natural answer. 2 + 2 is 4. I don't need to convince you. I need to show you. And as long as a business owner and someone who's trying to help lead the way for other business owners like me to make the same steps, I want to make it seem natural and easy, and there's no combativeness. If you're not there yet, it's okay. Because the beauty is, if someone buys with Bitcoin in your store and you want nothing to do with Bitcoin, immediately it can convert back to fiat for you. And that capability, that ability to toggle between US dollar and Bitcoin is going to enable, whether you're in or you're out, doesn't matter. The rail's there, and those who want to participate can, and those who don't. And I think what will naturally occur is just like the internet. It's not a matter of, and I said it, it's not a matter of if, it's just when
Yep.
um, the laggards finally realize, okay, and they're going to capitulate, and they're going to all of a sudden be on the Bitcoin standard too.
Dude, I think that's amazing. I'm super impressed by the systemization, and that's sweet the way you're bringing along the franchise owners along. I completely like agree that I think everyone will. I think everyone's going to be excited about that because I've heard from multiple business owners just anecdotally, like talking to them, like talked to a classic like my like barber in Anaheim about this, and he was running the Square terminal already, and I was like, hey, they're just going to turn on Lightning for this and Bitcoin for this soon. He was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like I'll do it exactly that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so he was like, oh yeah, when it's ready, it's ready. Like tell me when it's ready, and we'll turn it on. And then same thing at Tacos Estrella. My friend told me, he was like, my uncle doesn't want to buy Bitcoin, but he's down to take it at the store. Like, and we'll keep whatever we take at the store. Like, just, yeah, tell us when it's ready. Like, I think there is a lot of people that are just like, tell us when it's ready. Like, that sounds great. Like, let's turn it on. And so that is, dude, just awesome and exciting. Wow. So,
I'll add one
yeah.
last piece because I think it's the one that not enough of the people who are early adopters are saying, and it's self-serving. And I think as long as everyone understands that a lot of what we do is self-serving. If I was on your podcast talking about business, I'd be promoting Everbowl. So I am going to promote a little here self-serve, but there's game theory to this too, which is, and I mean this, like every business that is on the fence, the earlier you, if you get to the conclusion that it's inevitable, the earlier you adopt, the more you gain. It's just the way it's going to go. So if you had come to the United States in 1492 and decided that the western half of the seaboard was going to be yours and you could defend it, it was yours. It's a lot harder to do it now. So that's why I challenged everybody to at least do the research. And as I said to my team, I don't care what decision we make, but we're going to make a decision from a position of knowledge and understanding, and make the decision not to adopt it educated. Don't make it because you don't want it. I think right now a large swath of the population is choosing not to educate themselves, and they're electing not to participate simply and solely because they don't think it's them, or it seems kind of volatile, or whatever one liner they want to use because they saw in the media or heard from a friend about the negative. And all I'm going to say is that's fine. Don't participate, but spend a few hours, educate yourself, because this is a life-changing,
Yeah.
world-changing event that's going to be
Yeah.
one that's going to, like the internet or the industrial revolution or any of
Right.
the other big major catalysts that happened on a global level. It's going to happen. And if you make a choice not to do it and you're educated, I support that. I
Right.
might disagree, but smart
Right.
people can disagree on things. That's fine. But if you do it from a place of ignorance, that's
Yeah.
dangerous for your longevity and for the world. And so I just challenge everyone: educate yourself and make the decision not to do it, or make the decision to do it, but educate yourself.
Right. No, I liked what you said at the top of like ostrich is the wrong move. Like ostrich
Mm-hmm.
is the wrong move. You should need to look into it, make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
One word. How does can one more question on just the accounting? How have you had to make any upgrades to like your accounting software or anything now? Like now that you're using two currencies to kind of just how's that part work?
Well, so we're not for right now. It's just our savings. So we're not operating as far as we haven't yet set up paying vendors and doing a lot of transactional volume yet on the Lightning Network. That's what we're working towards right now. We have internal controls that I would have to rely on our CFO to tell me which are the ones that are being implemented or manipulated or changed to allow us to handle it appropriately. There's not a right now. It's just like owning any other piece of property as far as how it is on our balance sheet. I don't have the same rules that MicroStrategies does, which is taking the lowest price it's ever been and holding that as the price. So we don't have the same publicly required SEC requirements as far as how we report it. So we're reporting it a little bit differently as just an asset on our balance sheet and currently. And whenever we take the price, for whether we do it quarterly or whatever, that will be the current price, and we'll either have a unrealized gain or loss based on the current market
Yeah.
price. But we continue to buy, and we're looking to dollar cost average forever.
Yep.
I personally, buy a few times a week, and I recommend people think about doing that instead of just dumping it all in at once, because dollar cost averaging tends to prove to be a safer way to play it. It also keeps constant buying pressure on the markets, which is always a good thing.
Right. Right. I've one of my goals is to get more CFOs on the podcast as well, because I today was great about hearing everything you're saying. It sounds awesome, and I want to keep chunking down that path of like what's happening like at the software level and at the differences of the rules, how you just said, between public companies have to mark it down, but private companies like don't have to. All that's awesome, because this is the first time it's ever like we're doing it right now. You're doing it. You are doing it. And I think that's I want to end talking about high performers for one more second, and then I have our final wrap up question we always ask. But yeah, I think like high performers, because you've already done this in lots of other places, you're like comfortable being the first one to do something. Or actually how you even said, the way that you said Tahini's gave you permission to do it, or MicroStrategy gave you permission to do it. That's a very humble thing to say, but it's also a very just like knowledgeable thing to say. And what you're doing is you're giving your franchise owners permission to do it. Like you're purposefully saying like, I'm going to sit through the meetings on this thing, and we're going to have the conversations about how to do this, and then we're going to hand you this PDF packet with the links on like what to do. Like that's physically what you're doing, and that's like so important, because yes, the future is uncertain, but like we have the ability to control what we can control. I just think that's just like a classic kind of high performer like thing. So any other comments about how just entrepreneurs and high achievers what can they do to just not be the ostrich? You've already said it a lot, but I don't know, just anything else to them about just not being the ostrich.
Well, it's so at Everbowl and myself, we have 5 core values, and these core values are very important. And so defining those is the number one thing, right? Understand what your North Star is, what your playbook is. I don't have to, the struggle for business owners and entrepreneurs, truthfully, is the totality of the decisions and how many there are and the impacts and how they all interact. And you don't always realize what decision you're making today, what impact it will or won't have tomorrow. And it's not the big ones that kill you, because those you usually see. The big icebergs are easily spottable and avoided. It's the small little ones that pepper you all day, all the time. And so when you have your core values, hopefully you create them in a manner that is who you as a company and a culture are, and it allows you to tackle those and embrace the uncertainty of tomorrow with confidence and a clear set of direction. So for us, I'll just name them. Our first two are our 2 main rules at Everbowl and all my companies, and it's make friends and have fun. And there's a lot there that I can unpack, and I won't spend the next 10 minutes going through all my little fun diatribe about them, but it's not as simple as they are on the surface, because making friends and having fun does require you to be honest and treat people with respect and bring your A game and not ever leave someone stranded, et cetera, et cetera. But the next 3 are the ones that I think are better suited for your question. Number 3 is the idea of Kaizen, to get 1% better every day. And when you do that and you set micro goals on a daily basis that allows you to achieve 1% of growth, which is obtainable for everybody everywhere, then you start to gain confidence, you start to win stack, and it becomes something you don't want to break. And it's the problem of saying, I want to go to the moon. Well, that's great, but at first, work backwards now. What kind of shoes do I wear when I start working on that spaceship? And what kind of outfit do I need to wear? And does it matter what the room looks like and the atmospheric pressure? And you have to start all the way down there. So the idea of Kaizen, that 1% that high achievers, I think, do naturally, they're always looking to improve, and they never just say, hey, I made it, No, you didn't. If you made it, keep going, because someone's trying to get there and you need to keep moving forward. And then the next one is be change ready. And that's really served us very well during the COVID crisis. But the idea of not being a dinosaur, not being so stuck in your ways that you won't change. And if you're a change ready organization, you look at technologies that pop up like Bitcoin or like other different things. And instead of saying, I don't have time to learn this, I don't care, it's not my interest. No, it's as a company, I need to be change ready. I need to be ready to pivot any moment. If I sell acai bowls and superfood bowls, but if tomorrow some crazy thing came out that said all fruit is no longer good for you and don't ever eat a piece of fruit again, it causes all these diseases, we would be selling something else. I'm not just going to say, oh, sorry, shareholders, we're out of business. Like, I don't get that. That's not on the list. So as a company, whether you're an employee all the way down, never go to your boss with a problem. Go to your boss with solutions. And the way you do that is you be change ready. You look at the problems that are coming. You evaluate the market always. You always have an ear open and an eye open for what's out there. And when you see something, you at least give it the attention it needs. And then if you decide not to change, great, but you're change ready. I can tell you, we knew about Bitcoin as a company, and I wanted to do this 6-7 months earlier than we did, but I didn't feel comfortable yet based on what I saw as a company at a corporate level for us to implement it and do it systematically. I wanted to have some conversations with smarter people, and I wanted to get a little deeper in, but at least we were change ready if we had to 6 months earlier. It took us still 6 months to pull the trigger. And then the last one is remarkability, that if you're going to do something, be remarkable at it, because you won't get anywhere being average. And so I think that if you attribute getting 1% better, being change ready, and remarkability together, I think once again, Bitcoin's going to kind of hit all three of those standards, because it kind of does it itself. It's consistently getting better. You see the developers working on it, the layer 2 development on the Lightning Network, and what that brought to Bitcoin as a whole was amazing. And it enabled a nation state like El Salvador to adopt it and actually provide banking options for that huge population of unbanked, and what that does for remittances and lowering the expenses for them as a family. And at the family level in his country, that doesn't happen without layer 2. Yeah. So Bitcoin's not just staying static, even though the rules are written as far as the hard rules, the ability to improve inside of that is there. And it is change ready, right? It's changing with regulation and adoption in times. There was an issue with global warming crisis and people saying it's such dirty energy, and now we have volcanoes that are powering Bitcoin. So it achieves that, and it's remarkable. I mean, when you do the research, you put it through its own standard. It's like, it is remarkable in how it might be simple in its core. Like, if you think about it, it's like, we're not just going to print more willy-nilly. Like, this is how much there will be, and it's going to have every 4 years, and this is the way we do it, and this is the way it moves, and this is the protocol. And it's remarkable. It was created remarkably well. And so, again, although these are my core values, I still want to put it through the same core values, and it's doing them. Yeah. I'd be concerned if it wasn't. Yeah. I'd be less optimistic.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. No, I love that. All right, so the final question we try to ask every guest is, what's a Bitcoin product or service that doesn't exist yet that you want and would use?
Ooh, okay. What's a Bitcoin product or service that doesn't exist that I want or would use? I would say securities. I think that the stock market, essentially tokenizing. I always wondered this, actually, why there's no NFTs at all capable on the Bitcoin channel. Why there can't be some version like of an NFT product or service that can be utilizing the Bitcoin as the underlying currency layer. I'm not sure the answer. I'm not technical enough to answer. So maybe there's an easy answer, but that's one. And securities. I think that the stock market shouldn't be traded on paper anymore. It should immediately move over onto the crypto universe, if you will, on a ledger format that is tradable 24/7 all around the globe. And we get rid of the middlemen and women. Whether or not that can be done on the Bitcoin network, again, I'm going to leave that to the audience or someone to hopefully answer for me. But that would be it.
Love it, dude. No, I love it. Yes. So look up Liquid and look up RSK. So Lightning, Liquid, RSK, state chains, all multiple side chains of Bitcoin. I think I agree with you on that answer, and that's exciting. So Jeff, tell us where they can find you and follow you, and where they can find if there's an Everbowl by them.
Yes, so wherever you are in the country, we do have Everbowls popping up. Like I said, we are coast to coast. So at Everbowl Craft Superfood on Instagram, or at Everbowl on Twitter, or go to everbowl.com. I'm Jeff Fenster. I'm at Fenster Jeff on both. Last name, first name. And you can always email me, jeff@everbowl.com. If you're interested of franchise, you can go to everbowl.com franchise. We're looking for more franchisees and some fun stuff. And, please reach out, because I'm a student, as I said, and I'm constantly learning. So if something I said stoked a thought and you want to share it, I would love to hear it.
Love it, Jeff. Hey, thanks so much, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you more soon. Hey all, this is Brian. You can reach me on Twitter at Brain Harrington. Shoot me a DM with any feedback from today's episode. This has been a Choice App production. Bitcoin is becoming centric to personal finance, and we want to help you learn how to better engage with Bitcoin financial services. None of this is financial advice and is for education and entertainment only.